All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today on this wonderful Tuesday afternoon during the lunch hour for our Live Your Life Well presentation. My name is Amanda Martinez, and I am the Training Program Manager for Mental Health America of Hawaii, and I'll be talking us through all of the materials today. So thank you again for joining us. We have a couple panelists alongside with us, Ms. Danielle Bergen, as well as Ms. Jerry Medeiros. They're on to help me with any tech support that hopefully won't come up, but just in case, I have them on as support. A little information logistically before we hop into the material today. This is a Zoom webinar format, so everyone's cameras as well as microphones are automatically turned off, right? So don't worry too much about accidentally turning anything on. It shouldn't happen at all. I will try to make this as interactive as I can. So sometimes I'll be asking questions of the group or putting up polls on the screen. So whenever that happens, if I ask a question, feel free to use the chat box to interact with myself or even with each other. So if you send a message in your chat box feature to all panelists, then only myself, Jerry, and Danielle will be able to see that. However, if you send a message to all panelists as well as attendees, then everyone else who is online with us will also be able to see what you've written. So I encourage interaction. I also encourage any questions if anyone has. We don't usually get too many questions with this particular presentation, but you have a Q&A feature on your screens. Feel free to drop any questions on there. You can utilize the chat for questions. It's just easier for me to keep track of them if you use your Q&A feature. And whenever I bring up a poll, it should automatically just pop up on your screen. Okay. We are recording today, so I will make all of these slides available to you as well as a link to the recording in a follow-up email following the conclusion of today's session. Okay. But without any further ado, let me figure out how to actually advance the slide. There we go. Okay, so a little bit of background about Mental Health America of Hawaii. We are a nonprofit organization. We've been around for over 75 years. Right? We consider ourselves a statewide organization. So we have our main office on Oahu. We also have a branch on Maui. And we partner with a lot of community organizations and community members on the neighbor islands as well, just to extend our reach as far as we can. And our ultimate goals is to really improve the care of people with mental health problems. We also aim to reduce stigma and discrimination that is still associated with mental health, right? That's still present and creates barriers for people to access services. And we also ultimately promote mental health and prevent mental illness, right? So talking a lot about and heavily focusing on prevention. All right, so what is good mental health? Right? Good mental health is defined as having a positive, open, and enthusiastic outlook on life. Right? It's also defined as having healthy social and family relationships, right? So those connections and relationships that we have with the people close to us, those are positive and healthy. And also the ability to cope with everyday stress without becoming too anxious or too worried, right? Now, everyone experiences various levels of stress and anxiety from our day to day, probably even more so now with everything that's kind of happening in the world today, even within our state and within our communities. So using our chat box feature, what are some of those quote unquote normal or everyday stresses that we may come upon? What are those things that may cause us that everyday stress? And they could have to do with any different area. Car traffic, absolutely. So for those of us who may still be commuting in some way, right? Traffic absolutely causes anxiety. Fear of getting sick, yes. Our health definitely is a source of stress and anxiety. Work, sure. For those of us who are fortunate and able to still work, right? Whether that is remotely or if you are an essential worker, absolutely, work can be a source of stress. Meeting deadlines, meeting grant requirements. Kids, yes, absolutely. If you have children, homeschooling, distance learning, lack of time to ourselves, yes. Social interactions look a little differently, right, than they used to. Getting our children for school at home, yeah, absolutely. Childcare, right? So all of these different areas, work, at home, with school, with our children, with our health, those are kind of quote unquote, you know, those normal stresses and anxieties that pretty much everyone experiences, right? Now, when is it more, right? When does it kind of cross that line into being more? And that's really when that stress and anxiety starts to have more of an impact on your ability to have meaningful relationships, for one, right? So if that stress and anxiety and the symptoms of those start to impact your connections with the people that you are close to, if it starts to impact your ability to work or to learn, right? So if you are not able to perform as well as you used to be able to with your jobs, or if you are going to school as well, right? Being able to work or learn in that sense. And when it starts to affect your ability to carry out daily activities, right? So even just doing small things to get through your day, whether that is physically taking care of yourself, right? So like hygiene wise, even eating regular meals in that sense. So when it starts to impact those 3 areas of your life, that might be a good time to check in with yourself. And it might be a good time to also reach out for help. And there's a lot of help out there. We'll be able to give you a lot of those resources at the end of this presentation. But for now, we'll just use that as a nice check-in there, right? Okay. Right. Why should we try to improve our mental health? Right. I think it's pretty obvious and straightforward that we have a lot of stress in our lives, right? We named a bunch of those in the chat box there, right? And even so, more so with everything that's happening in our country, with the political divide or political climate, with the social unrest that's happening, even within our state, right? People who are struggling to financially get by, right? Or maybe they're worried about essential workers and their family. All of those stresses that we were just talking about are expounded, right? Expanded upon even more so in today's time. And so even before the pandemic, a lot of people rated 1/3 of people rated their stress as extreme, and half of those said that a mental health professional could help, but only 7% of people actually sought that help, right? And that's pretty reflective of what we like to call as help-seeking behaviors of people, right? We understand that there is help out there, and getting help will probably work, right? Getting help is effective, but actually taking that step and reaching out or finding out what that help is or what that looks like is a little harder for a lot of people to do, right? So there's that kind of disconnect there. And that's also reflected across the country as well. There's a delay in seeking treatment. So how long do you think that delay is on the national average? So from the time point where someone starts exhibiting signs and symptoms of a mental health problem, could be any mental health problem, to the time point where they receive help for that problem, how long on average do you think that time frame is? And you could just put your guesses in the chat box there. Right. So I see 3 to 6 months. Okay. Couple months, maybe a year. Okay. Right. All really good guesses, right? So on a national average, it's actually 10 years, right? From the time point where someone starts showing signs and symptoms or experiencing signs and symptoms of a mental health problem to the time point where they receive help for that, on average is 10 years, and that's a median, right? So 50% of people will receive help below that 50% mark, but 50% of people will also receive help after that 10-year mark, right? So it was quite shocking to me when I first heard that statistic, right? Because 10 years is a long time. And I think that's especially concerning when we think of our youth, right? We have a 13 or 14-year-old who starts showing signs and symptoms of a mental health problem. And on average, it's about 10 years before they actually receive that help. That's a long time, and a lot happens within that time frame, right? And so just a testament as to why it's so important for us to be talking about mental health, right? To be prioritizing our mental health, especially in turbulent times such as these, right? That we realize that there is still help that's being offered, there's still help that's available, and getting help does work. And the more that we talk about that and send that kind of message, the more we can lower that delay in seeking treatment statistic. Right? Okay, so how does stress hurt us, right? We obviously know that stress can cause us physical problems. It eats away at our well-being, much like stomach acid actually eats away at our stomach linings, right? So we may experience things like stomach problems, headaches, make us put us more at risk for heart disease or stroke. It may decrease our immunity a little bit, so we may be more prone to getting sick. Poor brain functioning, we may be getting headaches a little more often, right? And now stress can also lead to serious mental health problems such as depression and anxiety disorders, right? Now, the good news is if you think you are experiencing any of these problems, there is help that's available. And again, we'll be giving you those resources at the end of today. Right, so Live Your Life Well is a program that was designed to help all of us, every single one of us, improve our mental health and improve our mental wellness, right? So nothing that I tell you today is going to be new information. I'm not dropping any knowledge bombs on any of you or looking to blow anyone's minds. You know, a lot of the stuff you probably already know. But I want us to be going through these different tools and tips and just have them be good reminders for us that we should be taking care of our mental health, right? That self-care isn't a selfish thing. We should be prioritizing our self-care actually. And the one thing I really like on this slide is that it works no matter where we are on the mental health spectrum, right? Our moods can fluctuate throughout a lifetime, throughout our weeks, even throughout our days, right? So we may find ourselves waking up in a good mood, and then we'll see something sad on the news or something, and that will bring our mood down a little bit. And we'll continue throughout our day, and maybe we had a really nice interaction with someone in our household, right? And that brings up our mood a little bit, right? So that's just, you know, a quick example of how our moods fluctuate even within a day, right? The key really is to try to find and maintain an equilibrium, or try to find a balance of the good things that happen with the bad things that happen, and even the stuff in the middle, the just okay things that happen throughout our days, our weeks, and our lifetimes as well. It's really finding that equilibrium and balance. So I'm hoping that at the end of today, you'll be able to pick at least one of these tools that you'll be able to adopt into your lives or your routines. Right, so Live Your Life Well is based off of actually a lot of research, right? So the steps that we are suggesting are not based off of guesses or fads or trends or even advice from our grandmas, even though they probably got a lot of these right. They actually represent hundreds of research studies with thousands of participants, often conducted over decades, right? And backed by major universities or government agencies. Now, the research that they found shows that how good you feel is to a fairly large extent up to you, right? Which, if you're anything like myself, probably also causes you some levels of stress, right? Like, it's up to me to be in charge of my mood and to find that balance and to invest in my self-care. But you know, no matter how stressful your situation may be, no matter where you are on that mental health spectrum, there are ways that there are steps you can take to promote your well-being, and these steps are doable, right? We're not going to be talking about huge changes to our lifestyles. We're going to be talking about reasonable steps that, if used consistently, can greatly increase your comfort and your emotional well-being, right? And to increase your resilience, which is especially important during these hard times. Right, so the first tool that we have is connecting with others, right? We as human beings are social creatures, right? We're social animals. We crave that feeling of being supported, of being valued, of being connected to those people that we care about, the ones that are closest to us, right? And research suggests that this increases our happiness. It could lead to better health, and it can also lead to a longer life, right? So keeping in touch with your loved ones, it may look a little differently in today's world, right? But even just keeping in touch, venting about your day, right? Things that are checking in, things that are happening, going on in your life with a friend or a loved one actually releases chemicals in the brain that help support well-being. So how exactly can we do that? We can look into creating new social ties, right? So reaching out and maybe making friends or getting closer with the people that we work with our coworkers, right? Maybe our neighbors, people in the neighborhood, even in our community. We can also work to strengthen existing personal relationships, right? And there's creative ways to be able to do that as well. So my family tries to, every once in a while, get together for like a Zoom family check-in, right? Or chat. And it's always an experience for sure, right? When we have that many people on Zoom or on Skype and everyone's kind of talking over each other. It's kind of hard to hear what one person is saying, but it is nice to experience that even and be able to see everyone's faces, right? So finding ways to connect and strengthen those existing personal relationships that we already have. And then of course, joining support groups or finding new social activities. So maybe finding a virtual cooking class, for example, or joining a book club or a discussion page or forum. Maybe trying a new art project with your family or the people within your household that you're kind of sheltering in place with, right? Or even finding support groups for problems that you may be facing and connecting with other people who might be in similar situations, right? So a digital tool that we have available to us is social media, right? So I think sometimes social media gets a bad reputation in that people only like to post the positive and the good things, right? Usually when we look at social media pages, it's like all the cool vacations that people are going on or all the accomplishments and achievements and the positive things that are happening. And it's much less so the negative things that are also happening, which we know are, right? No one's life is absolutely perfect. There are definitely ups and downs for every single person. But that's not what's always reflected on social media, right? So when people are using social media to compare their lives to others, that's where we see those negative aspects of social media come into play. However, if we use social media for its original intended purpose to actually be social, then there could be a lot of really great benefits from that, right? So thinking about all of the people that you are friends with or that you follow, who even follow you on any of your social media platforms, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, if anyone is on TikTok or Twitter, right? Think about how many of those people you personally know. Right? So just reflect on that for a second. For some of us, it may be like 25%. For some, maybe about half, maybe about 75%. Maybe even for others, it's all of them, right? Or people you're only friends with or following because you have a personal connection with them, right? So no matter where we are, even on that kind of social media spectrum, all of the people that we follow or are friends with are opportunities, right, to create new connections, right? Some of the people that we have on our social media may be people that we've never met in person before. They could be people that we enjoy the same band, or maybe we met in line at a bathroom in a concert when we still were able to kind of gather in those large group settings. So they could potentially become active friendships, but, you know, of course, huge disclaimer, whenever I have these conversations with youth, I say this, and I think it's also a good reminder for adults as well, is to always keep safety in mind, right? That we are not agreeing to meet up with people that we don't necessarily know, or giving away too much personal information to people that we don't necessarily know, right? So with keeping safety in mind, social media can absolutely be a digital tool for us, and a big one, to be able to stay connected with others. Right, tool number 2 for us is to stay positive. So research suggests that thinking negatively has an effect on our moods, our behaviors, as well as our physical health as well, right? We see that connection between our physical health and our mental health. So how exactly can we do that? One way is to foster optimism. So maybe think ahead to something good that's going to happen, or something that you're looking forward to. Or maybe even every night, think of 3 things that made you happy that day and kind of reflect on those moments. And maybe also in doing that, practice some gratitude. Right? Maybe consider writing or keeping a gratitude journal, or even writing a gratitude letter to someone. And you don't actually have to send it, but writing it down absolutely counts towards practicing that gratitude. And remind yourself to savor the moments and to be present in the moments, right? So think back to a time where you enjoyed a really beautiful sunset, or you listened to one of your favorite songs, or maybe you had a really nice cup of tea or coffee. And how did that make you feel in that moment, right? I want you to be able to savor that moment and savor those feelings, right? How did that make you feel? What are things that you're observing in that moment, and practicing being present and being grateful for it as well. We also want to try to avoid negative thinking. And what we mean by negative thinking is trying to change our kind of unhealthy self-talk. Okay? I see in the chat, finding 3 things to say thank you for every day. Yes, absolutely. Goes into practicing gratitude, and maybe even fostering optimism a little bit, because maybe some of those things are something that you can look forward for the next day as well. Okay? So negative thinking, right? Changing that unhealthy self-talk. Some of us may have been running negative messages in our minds for quite a while now. I know I'm definitely guilty of this. But good news is that research shows that you can learn to shift your thoughts, and that over time you can literally change your brain, right? And the structure of your thought processes. So consider trying some techniques from cognitive behavioral therapy. Sometimes this takes the help of a mental health professional. But we can put effort into changing the way that we think and the way that we talk to ourselves and about ourselves, right? So sometimes when I don't perform as well as I wanted to, whether it's professionally or personally, I'm really hard on myself, okay? I'm one of my biggest critics. So I am always like, oh, I'm so dumb for making that mistake. Or why did I do that? Like, I'm such an idiot. And one way I've heard it phrased was try talking to yourself the way you would to a friend or a loved one. And that kind of stuck with me, right? So it's something that I've been working on for, you know, it's a process, right? It's a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. But I would think to myself when I started having those thoughts, I would think, would I ever say that to someone that I cared about? And the answer is always never. No, I would never say anything like that to someone I cared about, because I want to be supportive to them, right? Because I care about them. So why do I say those kinds of things to myself, right? So just kind of changing the way that we talk to ourselves even helps to avoid that negative thinking, and in turn helps us to stay more positive. Right, so a digital tool that we have available to us are podcasts. Podcasts are often found, you can find them through the App Store, through Google Play, through Spotify, different websites even. If podcasts are your thing, right, they may not be for everyone, but if they are your thing or you're interested in getting into podcasts, I would really encourage you to explore podcasts that talk about happiness and talk about positive thinking, because there are a lot of ones out there. All right, tool number 3 is to get physically active, right? So research suggests that exercise benefits us in several ways, as we can see on this slide here, right? And it's not exactly clear how exercise goes towards boosting our moods, but experts say it helps to relieve that kind of pent-up muscle tension. It helps to stimulate those feel-good hormones, while also burning off stress hormones, and really increases blood flow to our brains, which is always a good thing, right? So for our moods, we want to aim for about 30 to 60 minutes of exercise, at least 3 to 5 days a week. And exercise looks like a lot of different things too, right? It could be those exercises that really gets your heartbeat pumping, your breath going, right? Really strenuous cardio or aerobic exercise. Or it could be like a leisurely walk, right? Or maybe on the lighter side of exercising. But the point is to just get physically active as often as you can, right? And aiming for at least 3 to 5 days a week. Right. So here's a quick video that might give us some ideas on how we can exercise in place. Kind of more so in an office setting, but a lot of these exercises can also be done at home, right? So even just quick, easy, maybe not so easy, but quick exercises that can be done kind of in place, right? And I see in the chat box, find something positive, at least one about someone to say to them, and at least once a day to anyone, right? That's a great comment. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's kind of reaching out. right? And finding a positive comment to be able to share with someone that we care about, right? I will be sharing all the links to these videos as well in the follow-up email, so you can go back and watch them. All right, so another digital tool, or the digital tool to help keep us a little more accountable in our physical activity, could be smartwatches. If you have one of those, to be able to count your steps. Your phones can also do this just as well, to be able to count your steps, even track your heart rates, see how many calories you've burned for the day, reach any goals that you may set for yourself, even track our sleep, right? So using our smart devices are a great way to keep us a little more accountable with physical activity. Tool number 4 is helping others, right? So research indicates that those who help others experience increase in happiness, a decrease in stress, and a boost in the feel-good part of our brains, right? Our brains are actually wired for giving, right? In fact, there are chemicals that are released by our brains that are more rewarding during the process of giving than it is for when we receive acts of kindness or when we receive acts of help. Right. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some ways that we can go about this in a healthy way. I think especially if you are that giving type of person, we often put others before ourselves or put ourselves last in line when there's little left over. So it's important to keep in mind that we should be going about this in a healthy way, right? Helping others shouldn't hurt us in any way. So some tips on helping others, right? Don't feel like you have to make grand gestures or make huge time commitments. You know, sure, helping can mean helping to pass out meals at a food bank, right, or in a food drive every week. But it can also mean calling a friend to see how they're doing, saying a text or having a phone call and saying, hey, you know, I was thinking about you recently. I just want to see how you are. It could be cooking a nice meal for your family or for the people in your households. If you are still driving or commuting in some way, maybe letting that car in front of you on the highway. I know there may be less traffic now with less people on the roads, but that's absolutely an act of kindness, right? Or even smiling at a stranger in the street, right? Hopefully we are all wearing our masks, so maybe it'll look more like a wave to our neighbor if we were getting outside for that physical activity, while keeping safety guidelines in mind, but there's still ways that we can interact with others, right, from a distance. We also want to try to vary our acts of generosity to prevent the experience from becoming too ho-hum, right? And also be aware of taking on too much, or otherwise we may run the risk of feeling resentful. So when someone asks for a favor, or if you're looking to offer your services to someone, it's okay to think it over before saying yes. Right? You want to make sure that you have the time to be able to commit, as well as the energy to be able to commit, to be able to help that person, because that's the ultimate goal, right? There are some apps and websites to help us in helping others as well. So one of them is Be My Eyes. It's a really cool app if you haven't heard of it before, but it's set up to be able to help those who are visually impaired or blind. So they're able to log on, and it's kind of like a video chat feature where that person is able to ask for help. Let's say they're at the store and they're looking for a particular product and they just need a little guidance in finding the right one. They're able to connect with a volunteer and you're able to help guide them and point them in the right direction. Now, from what I understand with this Be My Eyes app is that there is a significantly greater amount of people who are looking to volunteer and be the source of help than there are people who actually need or are looking for that source of help. But it's still a good app, right? There's also Waze, which is a navigation app. If you haven't used it before, there are ways that you're able to, in real time, let other people around you know that there's an accident or that there's traffic coming up or that there's a cop up ahead, looking maybe to catch some speeding people, right? So, you know, if you are safely able to do so, you can, in real time, alert drivers near you just to give them a heads up, right? And that absolutely counts as helping, right? We also have Instead. So that is an app. I think that's only found on the App Store for Apple products, but in theory, it says, you know, if you're a coffee drinker, you're going to go buy that cup of coffee, you can open up the Instead app and it'll tell you, instead of spending this amount on that cup of coffee, why don't you donate that amount to a charity of your choice, right? So, and we can do that in our everyday as well, right? Is donating what we can, right? So just a couple examples. Again, there's tons of apps and even websites out there that help us in helping others. Right, tool number 5 is getting enough sleep, right? So research shows poor sleep is linked to all of these things, but I want us to try to flip this in a more positive way, to practice changing our negative thinking, right? So research shows that getting enough sleep is linked to, let's say, a decreased levels of depression and anxiety, right? Getting enough sleep is linked to less risk of developing heart disease or stroke, right? And getting enough sleep leads to less accidents, right? We're a little more awake, alert, and aware of our surroundings. So hopefully that would also lead to less accidents if you're not a clumsy person like I am. Okay. So how can we tell if we are not getting enough sleep? We can start by asking ourselves these questions, right? Am I often tired? Am I using more caffeine to get through my day? Do I have a hard time concentrating or staying awake during regular meetings? Do I wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on my day? And do I get drowsy while driving or watching TV? Right, so this is actually where I will pull up a poll for us. So this should just automatically pop up on your screen. But full transparency here, did you answer yes to any of these questions? And these polls are anonymous, right? So don't worry about outing yourself in any way with these answers. Okay. So I'll give everyone a couple seconds to cast their votes and we'll see what we have. Is it absolutely not? I get plenty sleep. Maybe I only answered yes to a couple of them, about half. I didn't want to answer yes to them, but I did. And sleep question mark, like what even is that? All right. Great. Thank you so much for those of you who were able to cast their votes. Let's see what we have here. All right, so we got 48% say only a few, 43% say maybe about half, 5% say I didn't want to, but I did. Thank you for your honesty, and 5% say sleep. What is that? Right. Thank you so much for participating and for your honesty as well. I always have to chuckle a little bit when I get to the slide because I absolutely answer yes to a couple of these, even though I don't want to. At least I know that my sleep hygiene is an area where I have opportunity to grow and to improve upon. And some of you may be in the same boat as me, right? So good news is there are ways that we can help ourselves get enough sleep. And that goes towards setting a regular bedtime, right? So our bodies actually crave consistency and crave routine, and we're actually more likely to get enough sleep if we schedule it in, much like the rest of our other important tasks, right? So even in today's times where we may be working remotely or not working at all, it's easy to kind of get a little lax with our bedtimes, right? But try our best to set a regular bedtime and stick to it, because that will help us transition into a more sense of normalcy whenever we get there, and we will get there, right? We also want to decrease our caffeine, decaffeinate ourselves, right? Drinking caffeine to stay awake during the day also, unfortunately, works towards keeping ourselves up at night. So try resisting the coffee and the sodas, starting to about 6 to 8 hours before you go to bed. And de-stress yourself before bedtime. You know, relax by taking a hot bath or hot shower. Maybe try meditating or some breathing exercises, and even some light exercise. Okay? We don't mean the strenuous, get your heart pumping and breath going exercise, because that might actually give you more energy. But what we mean by that is maybe consider some light stretching, right, to relieve that muscle tension before you try to go to bed. And make your bed a sleep haven, right? Our beds are somewhere where we should be sleeping, right? Not working or finishing our reports or eating in any way, right? Our beds are a place that we should be sleeping. So try your best to stick to that and making it a place where we are only sleeping. I think all of these tips are especially important in today's world where, you know, being busy and being productive is often a sign of success. And that in turn creates a lot of pressure for us, right? And it may bring up some feelings of shame or guilt when we try to take that time to rest or to relax or dedicate for ourselves in our self-care. I just try to remember that as human beings, we need and we also deserve rest. Otherwise, we're just wearing ourselves out from the inside. A digital tool digital tool to help us get better sleep. There are digital sleep trackers out there, so your phone should have one. If not, you can download an app. Some of your smart devices as well are able to do this. So you can open up a sleep tracker app, lay it on the bed next to you, and it'll be able to track your sleep and tell you different points of the night where you were a little more restless than others, or maybe which days out of the week you got more rest than not, or good of a sleep versus not so good of a sleep, right? So you're maybe able to think back of what you did that day or what was on your mind and make slight changes, right? So you're able to get better sleep. You can ask Alexa to play white noise in the background. YouTube also has boring story videos to get to sleep. I haven't tried these, but I did search them, so I know they are there. So if listening to a boring story makes you drowsy, that's absolutely a tool. Okay? And try your best not to use your phone or anything else at bedtime. Anything that kind of stimulates your brain, right? So trying to get to the next level of our favorite game, for example, or obsessively checking social media or the news even. If we are using our devices, hopefully it's towards, playing that white noise or those boring story videos or even checking our sleep. However, if you are the type of person that likes to have background sound on as you're sleeping or trying to fall asleep, just try to make sure it's a show that you put on that you've seen multiple times before, that you don't have to pay too much attention to. All right, tool number 6 is create joy and satisfaction, right? So research suggests that positive feelings can lead to all of these things, right? Laughing actually decreases pain. It helps our heart and lungs. It helps to promote muscle relaxation as well as reduce anxiety. Okay? I see in the chat, there's a wind down feature that turns blue lights down or gray on, I assume this is on your phones. Yeah, absolutely. There are different features on our phones to help kind of wind down or to put us more towards that relaxing state. Thank you so much for that. Right. Joy and satisfaction can lead to positive emotions, which also decreases our stress hormones and helps to build our emotional strength. And the more emotional strength we have, the better we are able to take on those things that life constantly seems to be throwing at us. Okay? And leisure activities, those kind of fun activities, those distractions help to take us away from our problems for the moment, right? And help us maybe ground ourselves a little bit and in turn make us feel a little bit more competent in tackling our problems, whatever those may be. So how exactly can we create joy and satisfaction? Okay? Whether, it's playing your favorite sport or goofing around, having fun isn't just fun, right? It actually promotes our overall well-being and success. And there are some activities that even provide an extra psychological boost, right? These are activities that totally absorb us. They challenge us without overstressing us or overwhelming us in any way. And make us feel fulfilled, right? Those activities where you look up at the clock and you realize so much time has passed, but it feels like an instant or a really short amount of time. That's what we like to call that flow, that feeling of flow. And everyone's got their own source of flow, right? For some, it may be catching a wave if you are into surfing. For others, it may be cooking, baking, bowling, working in the garden, whatever your flow may be. It helps make you feel effective, confident, and in control. So to identify that flow, try to identify the high points of your day. Take note of the times where you felt in that flow feeling, or reflect back at the end of the day to try to see what made you feel good and try to do those activities more often. And don't look for flow in passive pursuits. So unfortunately, watching TV or streaming our favorite show doesn't give us that kind of challenge that tends to spark flow. But once you find a task that does spark that feeling of flow, we can also consider raising the difficulty level a little bit, right? So I enjoy jigsaw puzzles. So I have an app on my tablet where I'm able to pick a jigsaw puzzle and also pick how many pieces I want to work with for that day. So I'm able to kind of raise the difficulty level in that sense, right? And the really cool thing about having an app for that is I don't have to clean it up afterwards or find a place to store it, right? And we can also try to inject flow in some regular activities, right? So injecting more meaning or ingenuity into those regular or routine tasks can make them more rewarding, right? So sometimes when I'm doing those regular mundane routine tasks, like folding laundry, for example, I'll try to get as much done as I can in the span of a commercial break of a TV show that I'm streaming, or in the span of my favorite song or music video. I'll kind of make it a little competition with myself, just to make it a little more exciting, right? So that's just one way I create joy and satisfaction when I'm doing things that don't necessarily spark that joy and satisfaction right off the bat, right? So digital tools we have available to us, we can create playlists of our favorite funny or touching videos. YouTube is a great way to be able to do this. It also works with music. So your favorite music streaming app or websites, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever it may be, you're also able to create playlists. And the cool thing about having playlists is that you're able to keep adding to it when you have free time, when you come across a funny video or a song that you like, and you can also create lists for different moods. So I'm going to show you a couple of our favorites here at Mental Health America of Hawaii.
Food. You know, I just couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, you know, I went to the fridge and I opened up the meat drawer. You know what the meat drawer is, right?
Yeah. What was in there?
Well, I'll tell you what was in there. You know that bacon that's like maple? It's got maple flavor.
The maple kind, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I took that out and I thought,
Yeah.
I know who would like that. Me. So I ate it.
Oh, no. You're kidding me.
Nope. Not kidding. You know, I also noticed there was some beef in there. Yeah, you know, steak, you know, juicy. Well, I ate that too. But I went back to the fridge just a few minutes ago, and I put something together really special. You're gonna love this one. I took some chicken.
Yeah.
I put some cheese on it, and I covered it with
Covered it with what?
covered it with cat treats.
Yeah.
Then guess what?
What?
I gave it to the cat.
So just a couple examples, you know, of really short, quick videos that make you laugh, right? That just give you a little spark of joy for a minute or two, right? So find those videos that make you laugh, that bring you joy, and have them on hand, right? So if you ever find yourself really stressed out or really anxious for any number of reasons, right? You can just open up your phone really quickly and watch a funny video to distract yourself for a couple seconds, right? And again, I'll make these links available to you afterwards so you can go back and enjoy those as well. Okay. All right, tool number 7 is eating well. So research indicates that eating well can give us more energy, lower the risk of developing certain diseases, provide fuel for our brain, positively affect mood-related body chemicals, and also counteract those negative effects that stress may have on our bodies. So how do we do that? It's best to follow USDA recommendations, try our best not to skip meals no matter how busy we may be. Snack well, right? So finding healthy snacks to be able to enjoy throughout our day and give us those little energy boosts. Do our best to limit our alcohol intake as well as reduce our caffeine intake. Stay away from over dieting. And, you know, never mind eating too many plate lunches or fast food, right? Which may be a hard thing to say here in Hawaii. There's a lot of really great food that's out there, okay? And you know what? We all have that one snack or meal that we turn to that just makes us feel better after we eat it, right? That comfort food or that comfort snack. And usually it's not always the healthiest of foods or snacks, but it's still okay to indulge in that every once in a while in moderation, right? It's not something that we should be turning to every single time, but it's still okay to indulge every once in a while. So digital tool available to us are different food scanners. So MyFitnessPal is one of the free ones, as well as Lose It. It's essentially keeping a food diary, you know, what you're putting into your body. So you're able to scan food barcodes, you're able to create different recipes and also look at different recipes that other people have input. It's just keeping us a little more accountable, right? And the things that we are putting into our bodies. All right, tool number 8 is taking care of our spirit, right? So taking care of your spirit means connecting to whatever you consider meaningful or what you can deeply believe in, right? And research shows that this combats stress, improves our mental and physical health, It may even help us live longer, and it does so by providing us with beliefs that make us feel better. Right? It gives us a sense of purpose or meaning. It provides even sometimes a way to understand suffering or the negative things that are happening in this world. It could also provide us with a connection with other people who have similar beliefs, right? And it can also serve as a reminder that there's still good in this world, right? That's not always reflected in the news and the media. And there's a lot of negative stuff that's out there, but there's also good things that are happening as well, right? So taking care of our spirit helps us to hold on to that too. So how can we do this? One is to join or rejoin an organized religion. You know, of course, spirituality isn't like medicine, so one dose of prayer daily isn't what we're talking about here. But if you are drawn to organized religion, you can get a boost from a more active involvement, right? Now, of course, we always want to be keeping safety guidelines in mind, right? So not gathering in large groups. And keeping a physical distance of at least 6 feet. But there are a lot of organizations out there who are working to adapt their services or the services that they're providing to a more virtual format as well. We can also, you know, if organized religion or traditional prayers and practices are not for you, that's okay. There's also meditation and breathing exercises, right? Research shows that these offer not only a sense of calm, but they actually help with levels of anxiety and depression, and even physical ailments as well. Doing so regularly, working these types of exercises into our routines can change the structure and function of our brain. And it can also, the really cool thing about these two is that it's something that can be learned in person or online. So there's a lot of really great apps out there that help guide you through meditation or breathing exercises. There's a lot of really great free videos out there as well to help guide you through these. And even short ones, right? So depending on how much free time you may have, right? These are also something that you can do at any time, any place, whenever you need it. And then connecting with your deeper self, right? So during uncertain times, there are still parts of our identity that are true, right? Or more certain, right? So try to find some time to think about who you are, right? The person that you want to be, the people in your lives, right? How we treat others, who and what do we want to be in this world? What makes us us, right? Figuring out what's really important to you, or those focusing and putting your energy towards those things that you do have control over, right? Some things that may cause us stress and anxiety, unfortunately, we just don't have any control over. But there are still some things that we do, and we can put our energy and focus towards changing those things, right? So we can actually ground ourselves in who we are and rely on our inner strengths. It may just take some time to think through or even identify what those inner strengths are. And of course, there's always something to be said about being out and connecting with nature. It may look a little differently now, again, safety guidelines in mind and rules and regulations, but we are still able to connect with nature in different ways. So this slide for digital tools in regards to getting in touch with your spirit is intentionally left blank on purpose, because we think this is a really personal journey and a real personal choice. So if you have suggestions of any digital tools that you use, feel free to drop those in the chat. Make sure it's to all panelists and attendees so everyone else can see them as well. For myself, I sometimes, you know, taking off my MHA hat and just my personal Amanda hat on, I use the Calm app. So it's an app that I get for free through my insurance, which is Kaiser. So I don't have to pay for it, but it gives me a lot of really great tools and guidance and different breathing exercises and different meditation exercises, depending on the amount of time that I have as well. So that's just one example. There's a lot out there, but it is really a personal choice in connecting with your spirit and using digital tools in order to do that. All right, tool number 9 is dealing better with hard times. So research has found that people who are able to do successful problem in a stressful situation feel less depressed. So how exactly can we go about doing that? One way is to write about it. Writing about a difficult event reduces depression and improves physical health, right? So we don't have to share it with anyone. We don't have to, you know, show anyone in any way, but writing it down helps to get it out there, right? That we're not keeping it on the inside. So maybe writing it out and listing out our problems may help us to identify different solutions and pick a reasonably good one. It doesn't have to be a perfect solution, right? Or a perfect answer, but a reasonably good one is doable, right? We can break that into concrete chunks and make a plan, right? Take those small steps towards tackling whatever problem that may be. And of course, getting support and talking it out helps us to deal better with hard times as well, whether that be with a close friend or loved one or to a mental health professional. So a digital tool to help us do this is a website and an app called 7cups, 7cups.com. So usually there's a video that I show that helps to summarize this service, this website. But unfortunately, I don't think we have enough time to be able to show that, but I'll make that link available to you. It's a really cool website. It allows you to connect with others who will listen, right? So it's kind of a digital version of a warm line. So if you need to just connect with someone and talk about your day, talk about what's going on at work or even what's going on at school, you're able to connect with listeners who have gone through a significant amount of training, and they're able to be on the other side to just listen to you and to be there, be that other person on the other side, right? This website also offers professional counselors through a fee, right? So it's free to use it, this website and this app. However, if you are looking for more professional counseling, you can access it through this website through a fee, right? It's available 24/7. And the cool part about this website that I really like is that you can also become a listener. So we're kind of going back to that tool of helping others as well, right? So maybe our way of giving back is signing up as a volunteer, of being a listener and connecting with someone who may need someone to talk to. All right, tool number 10 is to get professional help, right? So if after trying all of your self-care tools or your coping strategies, you still don't feel better, don't worry. You know, there is still help even in that place. And getting help is effective. Research shows treatment is effective, right? 80% of people treated for depression improve. And successful treatment looks differently for everyone. Right? It's kind of a personal journey in and of itself, right? It could look like therapy, it could look like medication to help balance those brain chemicals that are not lining up correctly. And it can look like a combination of those two, right? So it really depends on the individual and the situation as well, but there's absolutely help that's available, and getting help does work. So if you're looking to get that more professional help, you can start by calling your insurance provider just to see what kind of services or professionals are covered or who's accepting new patients, and ask for a referral. You can go to the Hawaii Psychological Association website and check out their directory of psychologists. They have a bunch of lists of people in your area. If they specialize in different topic areas, like LGBTQ+ or youth. You can call your primary care physician, right, and ask for a referral as well, or inquire about different medications. And you can also call us at Mental Health America of Hawaii. We're usually available. Someone is Monday through Friday, about 9 a.m. to 4:30. We don't provide any direct services, but we are able to help point people in the right direction. So if they're looking for a specific type of service, we're able to kind of point them in the right way. And of course, our website has a lot of really great online resources as well, even some that are COVID-19 specific. So if you go to our website, mentalhealthhawaii.org, there's a banner that says Get Connected right on the top, really big. If you just click on that, it'll take you to those online resources. Also on our website, which is right there, right, we have a local finding help phone list, right? So our social services directory has a really fairly comprehensive list of different resources and organizations that offer services. And the cool thing about it is that they're separated by island as well. So you can actually find something specifically in your area. And you can also take a mental health screen, right? So one of the quickest and easiest ways to tell if you may be experiencing a mental health condition is to take a free online screen, right? And Mental Health America as a national has 9 different screening tools for mental health conditions, which can be found through our mentalhealthhawaii.org website. So you're able to take this free online screen. Now, a note with these screenings is that they are not intended to diagnose ourselves in any way or even diagnose other people, but rather it may be a good starting point in finding out some more information. It gives you the results immediately right away, and maybe we are then able to take those results to a mental health professional or to our doctors and just kind of see what our next steps may be. There are different crisis resources as well. So if you or anyone you know may be in a crisis, there are several different avenues you can go. So I know this photo here is a little smaller. I will make this available to you afterwards, so don't worry about trying to scramble to write them down in any way. You will have them, I promise. But the crisis line of Hawaii, formerly known as the crisis line of Hawaii, is now that Hawaii Cares, the Hawaii Coordinated Access Resource Entry System, right? The numbers are still the same, and they still provide crisis intervention services. The new parts include serving as a coordinating center for other behavioral health services, including substance use disorders and general mental health, right? So absolutely still crisis intervention services available through the Hawaii Cares, but they also have some really cool new additions as well. Same for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, available 24/7. Anyone can call those numbers at any time. Those operators are trained to help talk you through any type of situation and connect you with the help that you might need in your area or that someone else might need. And if talking on the phone is something that you don't necessarily like doing or feel comfortable doing, there's also a crisis text line. And you can send a text to 741-741 and someone will always text you back wanting to help. Another really cool digital tool available to us is called COVID Coach. One of them is COVID Coach, right? So this is an app that was created for people to be able to support their self-care and overall mental health during this pandemic that we're all experiencing, right? So some of the features include providing education about coping during a pandemic. It gives us tools for self-care and helps to improve our emotional well-being. It gives us trackers to be able to check our mood from day to day, and also our growth towards any personal goals that we may be setting for ourselves. And it gives us graphs and visualizations of our progress over time, right? So, you know, a COVID-19 specific related app that helps build our emotional strength is definitely COVID Coach. If you're looking for a little more help with your sleep hygiene, right? So getting a good amount of sleep and a restful amount of sleep. We also have CBTI. Both of these are free and available to download, I believe, for both Apple and Android products or devices. Okay? So just more digital tools for us to have on hand. And of course, we are on social media. Follow us on Facebook, join some of our groups that we have, like the book club or our Keiki group, or even our Maui group as well. Or if you're on Instagram, we have Live Now, which gives a lot of really awesome self-care tips and tools as well. And that's all I have for you today. I know we're coming right up on the hour. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, use the Q&A feature, or if you're like me and need some time to process the information that I just received and those questions pop up at a later time, feel free to contact us. You'll have my personal email in the follow-up email, or you can contact us in the general office as well. We're always happy to point people in the right direction and provide information or resources that anyone might be looking for. Cool. So I'm not seeing any questions coming up. So I'll just close with a huge thank you to all of you for taking the time out of your day and being present and engaging in the chat box and the poll features to just learn a little bit more about self-care and why that's important, right? And why we should be prioritizing that. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week, and make sure you get that self-care in. Thank you.